If I'm being too loud. You don't know how to do it? Yeah. I don't think so. But maybe we're just blasting them.
It looks right in the sweet spot of the level that I can see.
Okay.
Definitely not in the red zone.
Yeah. Sweet. One minute warning. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Welcome everybody to another edition of Dinner Demos here at Jefferson Healthcare. My name is Arran Stark. And here I am with Tina, and Tina's going to help me do this tonight. Normally, we'd have a crowd of like 30, 40 people in here, and it's super fun. And we go through all the fun things about food together. But here I am with Tina, and we're going to rock chicken tonight. I called this class Chicken 101 because there's a lot to do with chicken. But before we really delve into dealing with the actual bird itself, I have to do some mise en place. That's going to help us through later on. So mise en place means everything in its place. Everything from having your towel where it needs to be, to having all of your garlic chopped, all of your vegetables cut up before you start sauteing them. So I'm going to do a little mise en place just to get ahead. You can notice I have two boards. I have a red board and a white board. The red board is my meat board. The white board is my vegetable board. I've got a sanitizing liquid that is a teaspoon of bleach to 1 gallon of cold water. That acts as a nice sanitizer that'll keep everything wiped down, certainly messing with raw chicken. I want to make sure that I'm wiping everything down and keeping sanitized. So the first thing I want to do is just get a little mise en place going. And I think I'm just going to start out by taking some celery here. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about stems, and this is a bias cut. It's where instead of doing a cross cut of my vegetable like this, I'm actually going to do a bias cut, which gives me a long, sort of a julienne of this celery. And we're going to do something really cool with this in a little while. And I don't think I need very much, just maybe two of these stalks of celery, just kind of bias cut them up to give me more or less a julienne. Something that'll pass as a julienne. Well, there's that. Yep. Get everything going here. Put those off the side. I have a carrot, organic carrot here. And a couple of weeks ago, even last week, we talked about the mandolin. And I just want to run this carrot through my mandolin to give me, a little julienne. Being very careful with that. That thing can cut you up really bad. So there's my julienne of carrot right there. I'll put that right there. And then I want to get a little julienne of onion going. So I'm just going to cut both ends of this onion off. Make it a safe environment by just putting it there. And just cutting it from pole to pole. And peeling back a layer of that crispy skin. All this, I can put it into a Ziploc bag put it in the freezer. Once the Ziploc bag is full of carrot scraps, celery scraps, parsley scraps, onion scraps, I can put it in a pot of water, bring it to a boil, turn it down to a simmer. 30 minutes later, have a veggie stock. I'm going to show you something really cool tonight to use with this. So I'm just going to peel that back. And then once I've got all the crispy critters off of my onion, I want to make sure I give it a nice wipe down with my sanitizing solution here, just to get all that cutting board just as clean and pristine as possible. Now, I just want to get a really fine julienne of this onion. And the way I'm going to do that is, imagine this knife is actually following the arch of that onion. And if I just press through like this, then it'll give me some nice julienne onion. So I'm going to add that to my mise en place right there. And I keep everything situated and separated, so it looks kind of nice. So that's done, my mise en place for my wonderful dish tonight. The second thing that I want to do, I've got a roasting pan here, and I just want to do a rough chop of some onion, put it right here in the middle, and I can just go through there. And this is where I'm using an onion as more of a utility vegetable, and more of a mirepoix. So traditional mirepoix is 2 parts onion, 1 part carrot, 1 part celery. And we use this vegetable combination in stocks and in soups, but we also use it in other ways. So here I'm just going to take some carrot and just rough chop this carrot down and add it to the pile. This is going to be kind of fun. Boom. There's that. And then finally just celery, just keeping it kind of long and busting it through like that. So now I've got this wonderful base of vegetables in my roasting pan. Okay, so now all that's done, I'm gonna get rid of my vegetable cutting board here, right like this. Boom. And give everything a nice clean wipe down. All right. So chicken is marvelous protein to use universally, used in every cuisine, most cuisines around the world. Whenever I'm messing with chicken, I want to make sure I've got my gloves on, because I don't really like having that raw chicken all over the place. So here we go. There's that. And here, I've got a wonderful organic spring rain chicken in ice. So when I opened this chicken out of the packaging, I rinsed it off with cold water, inside and out, making sure I've rinsed it thoroughly. And then I just packed it in ice, keeping it as cold as possible. And so I'm just going to put this ice back down below here. So I just want to give some insights to roasting chicken, because it's pretty much the easiest thing to do with a chicken is to roast it up. Chicken, when it comes to you butchered, it's got a cavity. You can definitely take some mirepoix and stuff it into the chicken. Herbs can go in there. A lot of people will go underneath the skin with butter. A lot of people will inlay herbs underneath the skin of a chicken, but that's all fancy when it comes to roasting a chicken. What I'd like to show you now is how I truss a chicken. So I'm going to grab a little bit of butcher's twine here, and this is a cotton twine. It's not a synthetic twine. That's the worst thing that you can use while trussing a chicken, is anything synthetic, because it just more or less melts. And I want to make sure that that line is, I find the middle of that line. So there's that. Now, if I take my chicken and I just fold back the wing underneath, just fold it, how does that work? So I'm just folding that behind the bicep. And what that does, it gives the chicken a nice platform to rest on. And Then I'll just take my butcher's twine, finding the middle space, and then I'll just come underneath the legs of my bird, and then one line goes over 1 foot and under another, like that, over 1 foot and under the other, like this. And then I'm just going to pull it tight so those legs kind of cross, and then I just bring this string underneath the thigh, underneath the breast, towards the neck of the chicken, and that's where I'll actually just tie that chicken up and give it a tight knot right there and cut any excess off. So a trussed chicken for roasting. Why do we truss a chicken for roasting? Well, the idea of when we roast something, the skin will shrink. And if you just put a chicken into the oven, season it up and put it into the oven, very soon after you put it into the oven, that chicken will be sprayed open. Legs will be apart, wings will be open, and that heat inundates and it dries the chicken out. But if you compress that chicken down, so while you're roasting it's keeping all those juices in, and you actually put it into the oven, sear in that chicken at a high temperature, like a 400-degree oven, and then turn it down to a low and slow, and then you get this golden skin on the chicken. Seasoning it up, I'm always just rubbing salt and pepper all over the chicken. Again, you can come underneath the skin. If I get my finger up and I can just make a little incision with this knife, and if I can just go underneath the skin, you can see how my finger goes underneath the skin. You can inlay beautiful herbs there, and when that skin roasts off and becomes more translucent, you actually see those herbs. So it's an inlay of herbs in that chicken. A lot of people will start roasting the chicken maybe on a rack, but that metal on that rack superheats, and more times than not, the skin of the chicken just sticks to the rack. The same thing with a roasting pan, putting a chicken into a roasting pan, the skin on that back of the chicken, that metal, super high heat, and when you pull that chicken away, that skin remains. That's where our mirepoix, the pile of beautiful vegetables of 2 parts onion, 1 part celery, and 1 part carrot come into play. So imagine we've seasoned up our chicken, we've inlaid herbs with it, and then we're just going to rest it on this mound of vegetables, and pop it into a 400-degree oven until it's nice, getting that nice start of a golden brown happening, and then we turn it down to maybe 350, 325 and let it go low and slow for a while until the chicken is roasted. Well, how do we know it's roasted? Back in the day, they would take a fork and they would lift the chicken up. And if the juices that ran out of the chicken were still murky with blood, then the chicken wasn't done yet. But if the juices that ran from the chicken were clear, they said, okay, it's done. I think the chicken's done. We can go with it. But how do we do it modern day is this. This is kind of fun. Here we are, the anatomy of roasting a chicken. So here is a stem thermometer. And this is kind of important when we're cooking proteins because we want to make sure the internal temperature of whatever we're roasting is correct and that it's cooked all the way, because the last thing we want to do is serve up raw chicken. So stem thermometer in ice. What my stem thermometer should be reading right now is 32 degrees. And it is 32 degrees right there on the number. If it wasn't, I have it soaking in ice. You see that little bolt that's on the back of my stem thermometer, and I don't know if we can tune into that. But if I've got it in 32 and my thermometer's reading, say, 60, we know that something's off. And if we just take a little pair of pliers or a little wrench and just turn that bolt on the bottom of that stem thermometer to where it reads 32 degrees, then you know you've calibrated your stem thermometer correctly. Now, when we're roasting our chicken, and it's been in there for, an hour or so, and we're just like, is that chicken done yet? Where should we stick the thermometer to see if we've got a correct internal temperature? And the deepest part of the chicken is going to be where the thigh is. So just that thigh, we'll get into butchering this down in a second, I'll show you, but where that thigh, that hip and thigh meet together, if you stick that thermometer way in there and get a reading, and then you always want stab it just a little bit deeper to see if it goes hotter or colder, and then the same, pull it out to see if it gets hotter or colder. So it's this mixture. It's kind of this fun little play with a thermometer to see what's the correct temperature. And of course, 165 for chicken is done, and that's all she wrote. A lot of people would argue, pull it out a little early, let that internal heat carry over, cook it a little bit. So you can play with that, pull it out at maybe 155 and just let it rest and see if it rests up to 165, but then flash it in the oven one more time to make sure it's at a nice temperature to serve. So that's the roasting of the chicken. Have we got any, are we uplined with any questions? Not yet. So Amy's getting logged in here. If you have any questions, just email them to us and we'll get there. So that's roasting the chicken. So roast chicken, we'll notice that the mirepoix in the bottom of the pan will start to get dark as well. Kind of once you see it turning dark, you want to deglaze it with water in the bottom of the pan. So you're roasting the chicken, there's water in there. So you're making a stock while you're roasting the chicken. So it actually works out well. And that's why that mirepoix in the bottom of that pan, roasting that chicken on that mirepoix, what you're left with is a beautiful chicken stock that's a pan stock that you can glean by using water in the roasting process. So there's that. All right. So now I want to get into deboning the chicken. And this is something, there's several different ways to debone a chicken. I'm just going to show you the way that works out best for me. And it's going to be fun. So I'm just going to take this chicken back, pop it on my cutting board, and that goes there. So here I've got a boning knife, which is kind of a firm blade boning knife, no flex in the blade, and I've got my chef's knife that I'll rely on for some bone cutting. So I'm just going to untie it from our roasting little demo there. And so here we have the chicken, right? So here's the chicken happening. Beautiful bird, local organic from Spring Rain Farms. Nice size to it. It's probably like a 4.5-pound bird. Wonderful stuff. So in looking at the chicken, so whenever you have a joint that meets, say the elbow of this bird, there's cartilage that you can cut through. It's where the cup and the roller part of the bone meet, and you can actually cut through that. I don't know. Maybe get Paul Nauman to describe the chicken anatomy. And the bone does this. So generally speaking, I let the chicken do all the work for me. I've seen it so many times, people reaching around the chicken, cutting, letting the chickens there, and they're kind of going all around the chicken, doing all the cuts. I let the chicken do all the moving on the cutting board. And the first cut that I want to make, and I'll show it, is this. You end up on one of those knuckles, and in this case, I'm the elbow knuckle, and you can just cut right through that elbow knuckle, and I'll start laying these out, make them look pretty. So there's one wing, and again, let that chicken do all the work, and just again, right through that. It takes a little while to find that sweet spot of that cartilage, but there's number 2, and then my third cut on the bird. It's kind of funny that anywhere in nature that wants to be cut, you can kind of see a line. And in this case, I want to cut it right where the leg and thigh meet the carcass. So I'm just going to make a tiny incision. I'm not going to cut through. I'm just cutting through the skin on both sides, right there. And then I want to just hover over the chicken and go down with my thumbs and find that hip knuckle, and I just want to pop it out. Pop. Pop. So I'm just popping that knuckle out of joint. I'm just loosening up the skin a little bit, and then if I just come on the downside of that knuckle and cut down, then I can remove the leg and thigh from this chicken. So there's that one. Again, let this chicken do the moving for me. And just come right here, again, right there, just straight down and get that going. So there's my number 2 leg and thigh. And then now I've got to remove the breast. And there's always the sternum right here. The sternum goes straight down the middle. And what I want to do with my very sharp knife, I want to be super careful, is I want to put some back pressure on the meat of this bird. And I just want to go make an incision straight the way down the center between the 2 breasts. And then it'll dictate to me either side, whichever side of the breast of the sternum I come down on, that's the first breast that I'm going to remove. And it's being very gentle, light cuts, nothing that deep, and we're just going to fillet the breast away from the carcass of the chicken till we get to that knuckle. And again, let that chicken work for you, don't work for it. And come right here, and then there's our first chicken breast right there. And then right here, just again, a nice shallow long cut gets us started to pulling that breast off of there. And then here we go. Boom. I like working with whole bird chickens because you get so much out of it. Rather than buying the family pack of 12 chicken breasts that probably have come from 12 different chickens, if you have a single chicken, you know the farmer, you know how it was raised, you feel good about it. You can debone a chicken. This 4.5-pound chicken you can get 3 meals out of for a family of 4. It's kind of fun. This is gold when we're talking kitchen, because this I can add a mirepoix of 2 parts onion, 1 part celery, 1 part carrot, add it to my stock pot here. Once I've gleaned all these little bits from how I'm going to butcher these down and show some things, start out in cold water with that mirepoix, bring it to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, keep it skimmed, let it simmer for about 3 hours or so, and you've got a wonderful chicken stock that can be used as a soup base or a sauce base. As far as breaking down the chicken, I want to start with the wings. Again, so here's the python and the hand of the chicken, and I just want to go through this knuckle here and remove the hand of the chicken. That's mainly bone and cartilage. That collagen that's in that cartilage is going to be really good for our stock. That means when the stock is cold, it's kind of got that gelatin kind of feel to it. This amazing thing is pretty important in American food culture. This is a buffalo chicken wing. You used to be able to buy these things super cheap, and then some guy, I guess he owned a bar up in Buffalo, decided he wanted to flour these off, deep fry them, and serve them with equal parts butter and Frank's hot sauce with a little crudité and some blue cheese or ranch dressing. And there it is, the buffalo chicken wing. So that's a fun one. Again, these you used to be able to buy these really cheap, commodity, because they were just byproduct of the chicken butchering process. But I've got a fancy thing that I want to show you tonight. And if I just take my knife and just, you know, in your python here, your forearm, there's 2 bones. So the same thing in a chicken. So if you just, at the top, just make sure you cut through both of those. And then I've got my French knife out to help me. The heel of my French knife is going to help me cut through the bone and the cartilage of this chicken. Now, if you imagine this is cartilage and this is bone, right about here you have this, it's a mixture. It's not quite bone, it's not quite cartilage, but you can cut through it without the bone splintering if you're right on it. So I'm just going to take that, look for that sweet spot on my chicken wing here, and just push down, and it sounds pretty gruesome. And then once I cut that, Then if I just take these two bones and I just press the meat down like so, and then what I can do is just pull the smaller of the two bones out like that. Then what we have is this beautiful opportunity for an hors d'oeuvre. All my scraps go into the stock pot. So what we have is the meat, and I've pressed it down. It's a Frenched chicken wing. So if we marinate this in equal parts of soy, red wine vinegar with some garlic, maybe some cilantro in there, and let it marinate for a couple of 6 hours, and then bring it out and let it dry overnight, and then we roast them off. This becomes this really nice, imagine on a plate, so would you like a chicken skewer, please? And then you just go like, plop. It's pretty nice, right? Pretty fancy, wouldn't you say? Yeah. I'm going to show you again. So there's that. Again, with this, I just want to remove the hand of the chicken. That goes into my stock pot. Again, I'm just going to take my knife and just find where the cartilage and the bone meet, down with the heel of my knife, cut that. That goes in there. I just want to separate at the bottom those two bones, and then I'm just going to use my fingers. I'm just going to press these down, exposing those bones, and then pop the smaller one, push it through at the bottom, like so. And again, a nice little hors d'oeuvre chicken drumette, if you will. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Okay, next I want to go into the breast of the chicken. So, funny thing about the white meat of chicken, it's a lot of people, certainly in this country, like white meat. I tend to go with the dark meat more, but when you think about what's the difference in the meat, it takes longer to cook the red meat or the leg and thigh meat of a chicken than it does the breast meat, because the leg and thigh have more muscle fibers happening, more blood flowing through those muscle fibers. And what it is, you look about what a chicken does all day, they're just sitting there just bouncing around on their feet and building those leg and thigh up. Their breasts aren't really doing anything. So it takes a little bit, it takes longer to cook the dark meat than it does white meat. And certainly in this country, we prefer white meat. So it's kind of a fun one. But in here, because I cracked through my wishbone, I want to make sure that I'm pulling that wishbone out of there. That goes into my stock. And then I just want to pull off that tenderloin. So a tenderloin of chicken, also known as a chicken finger, is a pretty fun one. Generally speaking, there's a little tendon here. We can just remove that little tendon, pull it out of there, and pop it into our stock. But these are great. Generally, I'll save them up in my Ziploc bag in a freezer. And when I have enough of them, the kids and I will do chicken fingers and set up a deep fryer, and it's kind of a fun thing. But one thing I want to show you this evening is pretty fun. I have a wonderful stand of rosemary here in the hospital garden. And if I just strip some of that rosemary down from one of my stems, and I just use a knife and sharpen one end of it, then I can actually come right here and use that rosemary as a skewer and skewer my chicken up just like that, and you cut it off at the end. That makes such a nice presentation. Quick grill, just on the edge of your grill, not burning out the rosemary, but imparts a flavor, but also has a utility use of a skewer. So it's a kind of a fun one. Yeah. So there's the tender. Now, so in my chicken breast, just come right here, clean up a tab. I've got the bicep of the chicken right here with the elbow on it. And what I want to show for you right now is how to French out a chicken breast. That means I'm going to keep the bone in and we're going to try and make it look elegant. So I want to make sure that I've got that bicep of the chicken in my finger, and I'm going to cut towards the elbow knuckle. So I start here with my boning knife, and I cut out towards the knuckle and just shave that bicep right off of that bone. And then I'm going to come underneath that bone, stick my knife through about halfway, and capture some of that meat and then bring it back there. So what I have is I have the breast right here that doesn't have the tender. I've got the bone, and I've got this cartilage knuckle with 2 pieces of meat hanging off of it. But now I'm going to use the heel of my French knife and just find that sweet spot between the cartilage and the bone. And there it was. We can just pull that right off of there. That goes into the stock pot. And what we have is this beautiful French breast of chicken. So it's got the bone. It's a nice, elegant way to present chicken, letting people know this is, in fact, a real chicken because there's the bone, you see. It's kind of a fun one. The next one I want to show is, there's my tender. I'll pull that out for something later. Boom. The next one is, we're all familiar with that boneless, skinless chicken breast. I can go ahead and just pull that knuckle off of there, and that goes into my stock. And we certainly can just clean up any cartilage or any fat that we don't want on there. And there's a skin-on chicken breast, or we can come and just very gently with our knife just pull the skin off of our chicken. So there's that skin. Generally, I just keep the skin out of my stock because it's just going to be fat. And if I'm just here having this chicken, I thought about a dish that I'd like to share with you tonight. So let me get up on that, and then we can start cooking that dish while I'm finishing up the butchering on my chicken. Sound good? Sounds great, Chef Arran. All right, I'm just going to pop my stock pot down here. All right, this is a fun one. So remember earlier, I had my little mise en place of julienne, celery, carrot, and onion right here. Over here, I've got some cellophane that I just want to bring some of that out and put it down on my workbench like this. And I just want to get another piece of cellophane, a larger piece, and maybe just fold it in half, just like that. I'm going to re-glove, and I'm going to show you how to mallet down a piece of chicken. So a lot of people think that this is a hammer. It's not. It's a tenderizer. It's meant for flattening chicken out, but not like roofing a house. So if I just put my chicken breast down, skin side down, just making sure it's all cleaned up, all that goes into there. And then if I just put my plastic over that chicken, and instead of coming straight down on the chicken, which will split it, I want to hit so it's spreading it out. And the idea is, when I look down the barrel of this chicken breast right now, the top of the chicken breast is thick, and it crescendos down to something really thin. I just want to make it an even field. So I take in consider I won't be hitting the tail of the chicken breast as much as I am the top of it. So again, being loud. And again, it's that whole idea of spreading it. Yeah, I wish we had a nice big sturdy butcher block table soon. But, okay, I've got my breast. It's all spread out nicely. And what I want to do is just get a nice clean right here on my cutting board. There's that. And I'm just going to grab one more piece of cellophane and put it down on my cutting board, like so. And then transfer this chicken over to this one like that. Cleaning up a little bit. And then I'm just going to grab a little bit of salt. Just salt that ever so nicely. That was a two-finger pinch. 1.5 finger pinch of salt. And then a 1 finger pinch of fresh ground black pepper. There, just so nicely, just so nicely. And then I'm just going to get a little bit of my onion and put it on the inside of this chicken. Actually, let's do it this way. I'm changing up on you. So I'm going to put it right in the middle of the chicken this way. So there's some onion, and here's a little bit of celery, and then here's a little bit of carrot, and a mixture right there in my chicken. Pop that down there. And then what I want to do is kind of roll it up, a roulade of chicken, like so. And then, so I've got the roll there, and it's kind of like rolling sushi in a lot of ways. So if you bring that cellophane over and just roll that chicken up in that cellophane, like so, and then once I get it here, I'm just going to press out a little bit of as much of the air as possible so I can actually get a twist going, like so. Boom. Yeah. All right. Now I'm going to grab another piece of cellophane, like this, and I'm going to bring it really tight, like that. And as I wrap this up and get it really nice and tight, I'll just bring the cellophane through this and just tie off a little knot. Using it, I could, I guess, use butcher's twine, but there's that. And there's that. Cut off any excess. Okay. And then I just want to work that chicken down into there and then twist it so it's taut. Like so. And I did it with a piece of plastic. I'm going to use a different technique where I'm just going to tie it. This takes a little bit of energy because you're trying to, when you tie it, you're going to work that knot inwards, like so. So 2 different ways. You can use a piece of butcher's twine, you can use a piece of plastic, or you can tie it off just in a knot. So what we have here is a chicken breast that's been pounded out. We seasoned it with salt and pepper. We put vegetables, a julienne of onions, celery, and carrot. Here I've got water that's almost to a boil. It's at a simmer right now, and I'm just going to plunge this into that. So what's going to happen? Well, hopefully it will. The proteins in that chicken will coagulate, and they'll keep that shape, and they'll turn just like a cooked chicken breast, but in the middle will be all this beautiful vegetable. We're imparting that chicken flavor into the vegetable, but also that vegetable flavor into the chicken. And it's such a great, simple presentation. It'll take probably 15, 20 minutes of a nice simmer. I don't really want to boil it. I'm just going to let it simmer here and keeping an eye and judging. It'll probably take about 20 minutes, but I'll use my stem thermometer and see, get that 165-degree temperature, and we'll have a nice little treat in a little while. But now I want to get into the leg and thigh of this bird. Much the same way that we Frenched out the breast of this chicken, we can French out a leg and thigh. And the way we do that is if I just take my boning knife and just cut a circle around the foot of that chicken, it's cutting through all those tendons. And I slide all that stuff down towards the knuckle. You can see the tendons there. Nice strong chicken. Getting that there. And then, again, looking for that portion where the cartilage meets the bone, just put the heel of my French knife there and go down. Boom. and it cuts it through. The thing that we don't want to do, everything's going into my stock pot. The thing we don't want to do is splinter that bone of that chicken. So again, this is a rather large leg and thigh portion, but you can certainly serve that, pan sear it, finish it out, braise it in red wine with mushrooms. Coq au vin is beautiful leg and thigh material. In this, you can see the line there, so there's going to be that knuckle between the leg and thigh. We can come and just cut those across. So there's a beautiful Frenched out leg and a beautiful bone-in thigh piece. And again, you can go to the grocery store and buy a family pack of leg and thighs of 12 leg and thighs, but they're all probably come from 12 different chickens. That's how big slaughterhouses work. They bone out all the leg and thighs, they go into a big bin, and then they package them, they're just pulling from those bins. So if you want to know, if you're concerned about the origins of your meat, a whole bird is, you can inspect it, you can look at it, make sure it looks healthy before you start delving into it. To bone out this thigh, I'm just gently just going to run my knife down that bone. And this is kind of a secret cut, but if I just put my knife underneath that bone and work its way out, like so, then I can just kind of pull that bone from that thigh, like that. And of course, that bone is just going to go into my stock. So there's a skin-on, boned-out thigh. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. And so that's pretty nice, wouldn't you say? What do you think? That's kind of fun. So now I want to bone out a full-on leg and thigh. So we've got that conundrum that if we're pan-searing a piece of breast, it's going to cook much faster than pan-searing this leg and thigh. This leg and thigh, by the nature of its muscle fiber, it's going to take longer to cook. But if we'll just start out by doing that ring cut around the ankle, just take that back, and we don't have to cut it off if we don't want to. And then, since that bone, it makes sort of an L shape, being the knuckle being right here in the middle, L shape there. Again, if I put just a little bit of back pressure with my fingers going down and put the knife blade between those two fingers and just put the knife blade down on it, the back pressure, me pressing down on that meat, is actually the thing that's making the cut happen. And just being very gentle with a really sharp knife, because I don't want to cut myself on a live stream. And it just expose the bone on that leg and thigh. Again, we'll come from the other side and do the same thing, putting in that back pressure and just cutting that thigh open right here. And then we're exposing both that leg bone and that thigh bone. Now's the part where I do that trigger cut, where I just come underneath that bone and then out, kind of including that cartilage right there, clean it up. And then around the knuckle, I'm just going to grab that meat, I'm just going to cut down just a tad. And then on the leg portion, I'm just going to do another trigger cut, so I'm underneath the bone and out, and then working my way down that chicken. Now, this is the part that it isn't cutting and isn't scraping. It's kind of a hybrid of the both. So I'm just using my blade just to remove, just push down that meat at the same time I'm cutting it. And what we should end up with is something that is beautiful for our chicken stock. And it's a boned out leg and thigh. Boom. We can clean it up just a tad. There's odd bits of cartilage in here, like so. All those little bits of tendon I can put into my stock. Make sure getting all those tendons out, because those tendons become chewy after a while. There we go. And the coolest thing that I've done recently with this leg and thigh, again, I can cover it with plastic and pound it out so it's even. Or I can actually take a knife and kind of butterfly it and splay it, like so. Yeah? So in the name of cooking these side by side, the breast and this leg and thigh, if I have it boned out like this, pan searing it skin side down after it's seasoned into a hot pan of canola oil, high temperature oil, sear it, flip it over, cauterize the meat side of things, and then deglaze the pan with some red wine, maybe some mirepoix in there, and finish it out in a braise, or just finish it out in the oven. But then you can cook these side by side, and they'll cook at relatively the same rate. The coolest thing, but I like offering up the breast one night for dinner. All the little scrap bits I'll put into a soup with the stock that I make. And then I'll use the leg and thigh, the two legs and the two thigh the next night to make some other dish, which is kind of fun. Let me see here. Boom, giving it, turning it around, making it nice in there. So the coolest thing that I've done recently is that if you take the tenders, the offcuts, all the little trimmings from your chicken, you can actually grind it up, put it through a meat grinder twice, and then run it through a tammy, which is almost looks like a tambourine, but it's a fine mesh that pulls out all those, gives you pureed chicken. And then if we add a little bit in a food processor, add a little bit of egg and a little bit of cream and season that up, we can actually make a mousseline that'll set by itself. What I did, what we have right now on the patient menu is a Florentine, which I took spinach and blanched that spinach out, and I blanched the spinach and arrest that spinach cooking process so it's a vibrant green, and I pureed that with that chicken and made a nice spinach chicken mousseline. Then I took this leg and thigh and I put it into a nice oversized muffin tin, and if you can see where the hole is in that skin, where the knuckle was, I just lay it into the muffin tin and I kind of make it into a little cornucopia down into that muffin tin. And then I piped in my spinach mousseline, and then I folded the edges over so that muffin tin acts like a little cradle, and I put it into the oven. I just put it in the oven enough to set. So it took it for about, 15 minutes in a 350 degree oven, just so it holds that shape. Now, once I got that done, then I can pop them out and put it onto a baking sheet with the skin side up. And essentially, what you get is this beautiful dome of chicken that's brown right here, nice golden brown, but if you cut through it, there's this pulse of beautiful spinach chicken mousseline in the middle of this leg and thigh. And it's a great presentation for spinach Florentine. Other things we can do with this leg and thigh, we can certainly do much the same thing we did with our breast over here. We can put vegetables in it, roll it up into some cellophane, and tie it off and poach it or cook it off in this water over here. Again, beautiful, this leg and thigh meat, chunk it up for stir fries. The same thing with the white meat. Yeah, that's a good little 101 on chicken. I wonder if my little chicken's going to make it before our live stream is up. But I just offer that. If you try it, it's a wonderful way to cook chicken. Do we have any questions, Amy? Okay. So next week, we'll be playing with some more chicken dishes. I was thinking about doing a version. It's kind of challenging in here because I can't saute because of the sprinkler systems in here, but we'll come up with some exciting chicken dishes to do over the course of the next 2 weeks or so. Sound good? All right. Thanks, everybody, and have a beautiful evening. Be safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, and we'll see you next Monday, 4 o'clock. Good? Are we off?